Hey Sue, sit. Sit. You know, let's let everybody see how pretty you are. Why don't you come over and get that treat? Go get that one too. And you're gonna come around this way? Okay, well this is Suyeong, and she has some separation anxiety. So in this video, I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks that will help with separation. Sit. That will help with separation anxiety, as well as how you can use a stay to help your dog practice being alone. So first thing I want to talk about, sit, is separation anxiety is essentially a panic attack. A lot of people get mad when their dog has separation anxiety because a lot of times they will lose control of their bowels, they will bark, they'll whimper and whine, they'll destroy part of the doorways to try to get out to find you. And we take this personally. We think the dog intentionally chewed around their door to piss us off, or barked just to get, we don't even really think about it, I guess is a better way to put it. Sit. And so if the dog is crying out, if a human was crying out in distress, we wouldn't say, how can I come up with some device that hurts you when you cry out? But we do that with shock collars, bark collars we call them. Or if the dog is panicked in the kennel, we get a stronger kennel. If your child is freaking out, you don't say, where can I get a stronger straitjacket? You figure out why your child is freaking out and help them get over that. When it comes to dogs, we take it personal, we think the dog's doing it intentionally, and so we look at just chasing the symptoms. Hey, cat. Instead of actually, cat's like, why are you filming?
Yeah.
So what I want to do as a dog psychologist, what I do is I try to identify the root cause of the problem and address that, instead of chasing the symptoms, the dog barking or not liking the kennel or chewing around the door, things along those lines. So it's important, if your dog does have separation anxiety, you should never punish it for those things. I promise you, it will make it worse. And so is your goal to make you feel temporarily better or to solve the problem? So that's the first stage I always go over with my clients, because a lot of people take it personally and they think the dog's intentionally doing those things. Now, dogs actually see a rhythm of what we're doing. At the next video, at the end of it, I have a catchphrase. It goes, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it. Because they are watching us all the time, and they mold their behavior to shape into, they shape their behavior to mold themselves into us. And so we mean to say, well, that's not what I wanted you to do. Well, I watched you for 2 months. That's what you always do. And so we get confused. They get a little confused. So basically, the reason I mention that is because they recognize rhythms. When we depart, we go through a departure ritual. We don't realize this. We just think of leaving as one thing, but it's not. We put on our work clothes or uniform. We sit in a certain spot and put on shoes. We put on our makeup a certain way. We put on cologne, or we don't put on cologne. We put on underarm stuff or whatever it is. And then we grab our keys, our purse, our sunglasses, our briefcase, our computer, all these things that we take with us when we leave. So the dog recognizes, ooh, she just sat down and put her shoes on in this spot. This is something she always does before she leaves. Then she put certain makeup on. And then she did this. She made me go to the kennel. And then she grabbed her keys. And then she grabbed her sunglasses. Oh my God, she's getting ready to abandon me again. Oh my God. And the dog starts freaking out long before you actually leave. So I use a principle called desensitization, or to help the dog get over these things. So what you want to do is essentially do these things out of concert with you leaving. So you want to basically go over, if you're picking up your keys to get your dog started pacing around and whimpering and whining a little bit, it's starting to get worked up about separation anxiety. So you want to go over there, pick up your keys, jingle them, and then put them back down and go sit down and watch the TV. Go over there and grab your sunglasses, put them on, put them back down, and go sit down and read a magazine. Put your work uniform on a Saturday when you're not going to work. And so we do these things, and the dog's like, oh my God, you should grab the sunglasses. Is she leaving? She's laid down on the couch. She's got popcorn. So now the dog starts to stops associating these things, and they don't get all worked up before we leave. Also, when you leave or when you come back, don't make a production out of it. Sue, are you going to be okay? I'm going to be going to work. I'm going to be working really hard to earn some money so I can buy you some bully sticks. You're just going to make it a big deal. So when you leave, just walk out the door. When you come in, walk in the door. Also, being too high or too low can also be a contributing factor. People who are riding the extremes of being too high or too low are very emotionally all over the place. So a lot of us, when we come home and our dog's all jumping up excited, what do? We pet it. Well, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing. Separation anxiety is essentially a lack of control of your emotions. And so basically, if you come home and I'm spazzing out and you're petting me, well, clearly you like me spazzing out, and each time I do this, I get a half percentage point more excited. Well, if you leave 2 times that day and there's 2 people in the house, that's like 2%. At the end of the month, that's like 50, 60, 70% more excited. People often make their dogs go crazy because they pet them when they're overexcited, overstimulated. So when you come home, if Sue is excited, pretend like she is invisible. It's not being mean. If I'm gonna have surgery, the last thing I want my surgeon to be is excited. I want my dog surgeon to be calm and relaxed, because that's when excitement is when more mistakes are going to happen. And separation anxiety, it's dogs who are emotionally all over the place. So when you come home, act like you're just like she's not there. She'll be excited for a while, and then she'll kind of start calming down, following around. Is, are you gonna pet me? And as soon as she's like this energy, reach to pet her. You won't even make it all the way to the dog. You reach and she starts wiggling, pull your arm back and go about doing what you're doing. Don't tell her no, don't chastise her. Just, you're telling her through operant conditioning, I'm no longer interested in this. When you get excited, it causes me just to move on to other things. But when you're calm, you're very attractive to me. So after a while, your dog will start emulating that calm behavior, because that's what gets the attention. So these are all the prelude to the tips for separating anxiety, or fixing it. Now, dogs are very, very social creatures. When we get puppies, the very first time we leave that puppy home alone, if we got it from the breeder, is very likely the first time in its entire life that it's been completely alone. So it went from 100% access to humans to 0. That is a huge gulf. That is unnerving for a lot of us. So we need to help the dog practice being alone. Cat doesn't know his problem. So basically what we do, I like to use the stay to teach a dog to practice being alone in an easier capacity. When we leave, I'm now alone. It's 100% to 0. Well, if I tell the dog to stay and then I go in the bedroom and change clothes and then come back and release the dog, I stayed, but I know you were there. I just couldn't see you and you were beyond another wall. That's great practice and an easier version of being alone. So what I want you to do is I want you to start to teach your dog to stay, as I'm going to show you here in a minute. And then I want you to put your dog to stay when you go get a drink of water. Put your dog to stay when you go change your daughter's diapers. Put your dog to stay when you go do all these different things, but they're all inside the place. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how you can, with the next step, when you start leaving your actual place. Now, when people teach your dog to stay, they often teach it with the 3 Ds: duration, distance, and distraction. And most people try to train their dogs with all 3 at the same time, which makes it 3 times harder than it needs to be. So when I teach a dog to stay, the first step is to teach the dog to stay for duration only. Right here, until I can have the dog stay this close for up to 5 minutes. And you think it's really easy just to have a dog just sit here and they're not doing anything? The dog's like, why? I can smell you have a lot of treats. Why are you not giving me the treats? Let me paw at you. Oh, you don't want the paw? I'm gonna sit down. Oh, you don't want that? Roll over, lay down, dance, bark. I'm gonna go through all these different things to get the treats that you're not giving me. I have a puppy, and he's 3 years old now, but when he was a puppy, I had to spend about 2 weeks of doing 1 second stays. As soon as I went to 2 seconds, he walked away. Now, when you're teaching to stay, it's incumbent upon you to have a 100% success rate. You don't want the dog to have what we call an auto release, which is meaning to leave without permission. So that's why we just do 1 second stays and then eventually 2 and 3, but you build success on success. So when you're doing this, you should always be counting in your head or have a watch that shows you a second hand. Because if you're going from 30 to 40 seconds and you get to 37 and the dog gets up and moves away, that means you need to practice back up like maybe at 36 or 35 and practice 2 or 3 times at that previous level until give the dog doing really well. Then try to go to 37, then 39, then 41. So if you don't count in your head, you're never going to know where you're at, where your dog auto-released. And don't push too far too fast. That's, again, the most common mistake people make is they push too far too fast and the dog just practices leaving whenever it wants. Now, when you're practicing this, you need to have a stay command and you need to have a release command. I'm laughing because Sue's taking a nap now. We're going to wake her up in a second. So the Guardian here says, I believe, free is the command for release. Okay, so a lot of us say okay, and I know of 4 dogs who've been killed because okay was their release word. They're standing in a busy street talking to somebody, they have the dog in a stay, and then somebody says okay, and the dog just jumps and gets clipped by a car because it happens too fast. I have 4 dogs. I say release for 1 dog, break for another dog, freedom for another one, and parole for the last one. I like using fun command words. So the way you do that is I'm going to throw a treat off to the side, and then when the dog gets up to get I throw it away where the dog has to take 1 or 2 steps to get it. Then when it licks it up, I say the command word. Remember, anytime the treat goes in your dog's mouth, you want to say the command word after it goes in their mouth. I promise you I'm going to show you this in a second. There's a lot of baggage to go through. Now, when I put a dog into a stay, the book says the dog just has to stay in the location. I do this for a living, so if I don't put my dog in a sit stay, I expect to sit throughout the stay. But if you're more relaxed, as long as the dog stays in the location, they go from a sit to a down, back up to a sit, but they stay in the location, technically that's okay. But if your dog is constantly going back into a down position, then I would recommend that you start off with your dog in that down position. My legs are going to go to sleep if I don't move them a little bit. All right, the other thing is, at first you want to keep eye contact. Once you pass about 5 or 6 seconds, then you want to break eye contact periodically. If the dog's right here, I say stay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I come back and give the eye contact again. If you don't start breaking eye contact, as soon as you start breaking eye contact, the dog will leave. And that's not what we want. We, again, stay until you hear the release word and nothing else. So if you're going to call your dog, you would first say free, then you would call your dog. Don't just say free, because that puts them in a conflict resolution problem. Now, one other thing that I like to do is the hand motion. So I'm going to imagine that this is the dog. So what I'm going to do is I call it bookends. We start the stay and stop the stay, and then we decide, are we going to practice that again, or are we done and we release the command? So I'm going to say stay. Now when I do this, if you notice, I'm halfway distance. If this is the dog's nose and me, I'm halfway distance. For some reason, when I show people to do this, they put their hand like right up covering the dog's face. And we want them to see the hand signal, not have it obscure their view. So I punctuate it. When I get to the end where I'm going to stop, that's when I say stay. So I'd say stay. Now I just started the stay. Now I'm going to pull my hand back here or down here, and I'm going to count to whatever iteration in my head that we're going to be at. When we're concluding that stay, that rep, I should say, then I'm going to say stay as I deliver the treat. Now I call it handcuffed, but you always want the treat to go in first, and you want that hand in front of their face, not on top of their face. So I say stay, I start, and I count 1, 2, and then I deliver the treat, and I say stay again, just let the dog know we've completed that stage. But it's temporarily still kind of in a limbo of stage. So I either start the stage again, and then count, and then finish the stage, or I say stay, count to my duration, deliver the treat, and when I'm done, I throw a treat to the side, the dog goes and gets it, and then I say free. So you always are going to release your dog when you're doing these things. All right, Sue. Sue, would you like more treats? How about that one? Would you like that one? I thought you might like that one. Get that treat right there. Come here, Sue. Come here. Yes. Yes. I have a whole bunch of treats for you, sweetheart. Come here. She's a little bit unnerved. Her guardians just moved in. I moved in this place a month ago, but we just had movers here for an hour, and so she's a little bit verklempt. All right, you want to go this way, or we can do this way? You want to go past me? All right. Well, then we'll have the guardian move the camera a little bit. Well, come here, Sue. No, I was going to have you go right over there if you could.
Okay.
It's better if you see me on the profile. Sue. Sue.
She's gonna follow me.
She's going to follow you, of course.
Yeah.
All right, Sue, come here. Sue, you're going to lose all these to the cat. Yeah. Yes. So I'm just luring her, and the cat's going to get all these treats if you don't hurry up, Sue. There you go, Sue. Come here. This is making the video a little bit longer. We'll try to edit this out, but I don't have a lot of time to edit. I know. What did I do? I moved over, didn't I? Yes. All right, Sue. Come here, sweetheart. Sue, come. So this is a little bit of her being a chow, but this is really probably her just, she's a little bit uncomfortable because of all the things that we went through today. So let's try to move over a little bit and we'll have some interesting camera work. All right, Sue.
Sue, come. No.
There you
no.
go.
Come on. Come. No.
Sue. There you go, sweetheart. Sue. It's okay. You fell asleep and you forgot that we're buddies, huh? Good job, Sue. Yes. Come here. There you go. We're going to go at your pace. Sit. All right, so we'll do it from here. Not the best angle, but that's okay. All right, Sue. Stay. I count 1, 2, 3. Stay. Stay. So So this is going to be a little bit harder. Watch me through the deal to make sure that you get
Yeah.
So basically, I'm just going to pantomime without her because she's just feeling uncomfortable and this is going to take a long time. So we're going to you want to try now again, Sue? Come. All right. So let's imagine that this is the dog's nose. And so I'm gonna have the treats in this hand. And a lot of times if you're holding the hand here, they're gonna look or they're gonna try. So if your dog's really focused on this hand, I always like to have more treats than I'm actually gonna practice in my hand so I don't have to go. And at first you have to go bang, bang, bang. So I'm gonna have this either on my side or behind my back if the dog's trying to get to the treats. I say stay, put my hand back, count 1, 2, stay to deliver the treat. And then that's ended it, and then I say stay again. And I count back 1, 2, 3, 4. Stay. And then when I get done, I'm going to drop a treat over the side. Sue takes one step and gets it, and I say free in this case. Now, when you're doing this training for dogs, you really want to try to keep your training to about a minute and a half maximum. This is one of those exceptions because we're eventually going to get to 5 minutes. So the idea is to practice this in different parts of your place and count in your head and maybe have a chart so you kind of know what iteration you're up to. And don't do it when there's anybody eating or there's crazy stuff going on outside. That's distractions. That makes it 3 times as hard or twice as hard. So once I can get up to the point where the dog will stay for 5 minutes, 5 different times in a row, now I'm ready to start doing distance, or that's duration. Then I'm going to start doing distance. I'm going to stand up to pantomime before my legs completely go to sleep. All right, so let's say that the camera is the dog. So now I'm going to start moving away. Now, when I first start moving away, I'm only going to do 1 step at a time. So I say stay, take a step backwards, and I count to 2 because I took 1 step backwards. I double the number of steps for the duration. Then I take a step forward, deliver the treat, and say stay. And then I'm going to do that until I can. When you start moving away, it's hard for dogs to do. So if your dog keeps on coming towards you every time you do this, you might want to say stay for like 30 seconds. Stay. Do 2 or 3 of those. Then say stay. Stay. Sometimes you're just backing up and just not even pausing. But eventually you want to get to the point where you stay, back up 1 step, count 1, 2, come back, deliver the treat, and say stay. And eventually you're going to work your way up to the point where you can be about 15 steps away before you're going to start moving beyond line of sight. So again, the camera's the dog. I say stay, and let's imagine I got back to this is 14, 15 steps. And once I've done this, the dog will stay that. The next time I practice, I get to 15 steps and I go like this. And I walk back and give the dog the treat. So the first time I move out of line of sight, I'm just doing it just in a hallway, so the dog can't see me, but at first only 1 second. If you go too long, the dog will come to try to find you. Now we're going to start elongating, staying, but we don't achieve this until we've gotten at least 15 steps away, and the dog's consistent in that before we start adding distance. Then eventually I'm out of here for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, and every dog is going to be different in the duration. So sometimes you can go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go to 10 and 15, 20. But if your dog is auto-releasing, then you might have to go to 17s or 27s or whatever it is. But the idea is, again, count your head so your dog gets a 100% success rate. Once you get to the point where you can be out of your dog's sight for like 10 minutes or longer, that's when I want you to start using it like I talked about earlier in this video. Stay, go get yourself a drink of water, come back, free. Stay, go and change clothes, come back, free. So your dog is practicing being alone in an easier capacity. It's not 0 to 100 or 100 to 0. It's maybe 100 to 50 because you're back there in the bedroom. You're behind a door, I can't see you, or you're over here behind a wall, but I know you're here because this is the only exit for the place. So now the dog is practicing being calm while it can't see you and be in your immediate proximity. So keep on making this progressively longer. Don't do like 1 minute and then 5 minutes and then 3 minutes and 7 minutes. The idea is 1 minute. So getting a glass of water is like a 1 minute. Going to the bathroom, maybe 2 minutes. Going to change clothes is maybe 3 or 4 minutes. The idea is to progressively make that longer and longer until your dog will stay. Now, the entire duration, and be calm while it's doing it. Now, a lot of people will get a security camera and set one of those up so you can actually watch your dog from your phone to see, did it get up and move around a little bit. Those are helpful, it's not required. All right, once you can get to the point where you can be in your bedroom or put your dog in a stay and be out here watch a half-an-hour TV program or something longer and your dog stays there, now you're ready to start taking the next step, which is actually leaving the place. Now, when we get to this point, this is when people usually leave and we go, hey, let's just go grab a quick dinner and then we'll come back real quick. Well, you went from every other step along this, we've gone from 1 second to 2 seconds. Now we're going, for the first time we're doing it for an hour. Well, that's way too long for the dog. The dog is going to practice being in your apartment, freaking out, crying and whimpering, and that's the behavior it's practicing. So what we want to do is the first time we do this, we've already desensitized all this and the dog's practiced being alone. So you get up without grabbing your keys, go out and close the door, and just close the door and then turn around and come right back in. For dogs that have a really bad case. If it's your dog is pretty confident at this point, then maybe go out and you wait 5 seconds before you come back in. And then 10 seconds, and then 15. You gradually ramp it up. But I want you to keep on practicing this until you can be outside of your place for 1 hour with your dog not reacting. Now, 1 hour is kind of an arbitrary one that I'm throwing out. I will tell you that if a dog makes it to 2 hours, you never have to practice beyond 2 hours. It'll be gold. And some people, when they do this, they get to the point where they leave the dog for a half an hour, and they watch the security camera. The dog is asleep. It's not drooling. It's not panting. It's not pacing around. It's showing it's very comfortable. Then you could probably start leaving it and go for longer and longer periods of time. But the whole point is this: if you're also getting your counter, and glad I remember this, once you leave that door, if you're longer than like 1 minute, when you leave there, you hit your stopwatch on your watch or your phone so you know exactly where you're at. So as soon as you hear the first whimper, you stop the stopwatch. You say, okay, that was 42 minutes. So the dog can't go beyond 41 minutes. And we back up to 40, and we practice a couple more 40s. The idea is to build success on top of success. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you can leave and be outside, just watch, hopefully it's a little cooler, and you have your iPad and you watch a TV show or you're just sunning yourself or whatever, and the dog is practicing being inside calm, but if it is a mistake or a problem, you can immediately come back inside, recognize where you were, back up and go to the previous step, and practice a little bit more. Eventually you'll get to the point where now your dog is comfortable and practice being alone because you helped it achieve that through very small iterations, and you build success on top of success. Sue? Is she right there?
Yeah.
Okay, follow me. I'll move around.
Oh, I got her to come over here.
Sue, would you like another treat? We'd like to get you in the shop for the end of this. You want some crack instead? Look at that crack treat. Crack is freeze-dried beef liver. The cat is too fast for you, buddy. Well, let's see if we can get you to come over here and take it. This slow mover is a puppy. This is Suyeong, and these are some tips and tricks that you can use if you have a dog that has separation anxiety, as well as by teaching it how to practice being alone through the stay and through some desensitization.